Hello everyone, welcome to Advanced Knowledge Systems and a warm welcome to AKS IAS Academy, which is one of the premier institutions in India, and it offers examination coaching for UPSC CSC, State Public Service Commission, SSC Combined Graduate Level and CLAT examinations. And about me, I'm Sandeep Bhushan Tumala, and my credentials are I have 10 years of teaching experience for civil services. I take up international relations and internal security and the analysis of the Hindu newspaper. And this session is in regards to the DNA of the Hindu, that is today's of 16th of February 2021. And throughout my session, I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases from the newspaper, that is the Hindu newspaper. And by identifying the keywords and the key phrases, we will get into the mode of the importance of UPSC understanding the factual, analytical, and conceptual questions. And also, while you imbibe the keywords and the key phrases in your answer writing, your answers for the mains examination would be precise and concise, and thereby you will score higher marks in the mains examinations. And this session at AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis will certainly help you to crack both prelims as well as mains for the year 2021. And before we get into the DNA of the newspaper, the quote of the day. And the quote of the day is your success and happiness. Your success and happiness lies in you. So it is that you are responsible for your success and for your happiness. And now we'll get into the DNA of the newspaper. And here we would be focusing about what the Chief Justice of India, that is Sharath A. Bobde, has made a statement in regards to the privacy. And the Supreme Court has made it very clear that Indians have a great or grave apprehensions about privacy, especially from the Facebook and WhatsApp. So, here what is the concern being raised by the Supreme Court of India, the judiciary, and by the Chief Justice of India, Sharath Bobde, is that the Indians are definitely about having a grave apprehensions about their privacy, especially when we are talking about the Facebook and WhatsApp. And we will look at what are the grave apprehensions which are in the minds of the Indians about the privacy from Facebook and WhatsApp. And the Chief Justice of India has addressed the lawyers while he was appearing for the social media instant messaging giants. And here he said that, as we discussed, that Indians have grave apprehensions about loss of privacy. So Indians are worried about their privacy, whether their privacy is at stake, is at loss, and they are worried about it. Why are they worried about it? Especially because of the Facebook and WhatsApp. And what was the need for the Chief Justice of India, Sharath Bobde, while he was addressing to the social media and instant messaging giants, that he spoke about Indians having a grave apprehensions about the loss of privacy. And he has also made a mention about the companies which are making 2 to 3 trillion business in India. And the Chief Justice of India, Sharath Bobde, while he was heading the three-judge bench, he made it very clear that it is the duty, that is, the judiciary has the duty to protect people's privacy. This is the key phrase what we need to focus, what was emphasized by the Chief Justice of India, that judiciary has the duty to protect people's privacy, and thereby the Supreme Court has pitched in, and it has addressed, while addressing to the social media and instant messaging giants, it has said that Indians have grave concerns or apprehensions about the loss of privacy, and it is a duty for the judiciary to protect the privacy of Indians. And while the Supreme Court was hearing, or it was hearing about a petition filed, that is, which is concerned about the new privacy policy. This is the keyword. Why the Supreme Court has, or the Chief Justice of India, or the bench has made it very clear that Indians have grave concerns about the loss of privacy. And why the issue has come up or the hearing has come up in the Supreme Court is because of the new privacy policy NPP, which was introduced by WhatsApp on January 4th. And the policy deadline for the new privacy policy introduced by WhatsApp was February 8th, but it was extended up to May 15, 2021. And because of the new privacy policy of WhatsApp, the petitioner have challenged in the Supreme Court, and the petitioner has alleged that the new privacy policy should scrap the opt-out policy. So another keyword what we need to focus within the new privacy policy is opt-out policy, and the petitioner is wanting that it scraps. That means WhatsApp would or should scrap the opt-out policy. Why? Because as per the new privacy policy introduced by WhatsApp, that there is a compulsory consent by the Indians to share the data with the Facebook and its group. Please do understand here, the opt-out policy is not mentioned or it's not available for the Indians when or while they are using WhatsApp as per the new privacy policy introduced by WhatsApp. So that now the petitioner have alleged that there has to be a scrapping of the opt-out policy, wherein now according to the policy, that is new privacy policy, there is that it is a compulsory consent for the netizens that they should share the data with the Facebook and its group. And there is an allegation by the petitioner challenging the new privacy policy introduced by WhatsApp in the Supreme Court, saying that WhatsApp has been treating Indians and Europeans differently. Please do understand here, the allegations by the petitioner is that the WhatsApp is treating Europeans and Indians differently because Europe has a special law that is called as General Data Protection Regulations, and thereby the opt-out policy or compulsory consent is not to the Europeans. That means Europeans do not or cannot fall under the ambit of compulsory consent, but they have the option of opt-out policy. The Europeans have the option of opt-out policy, but wherein Indians do not have the option of opt-out policy. But as per the new privacy policy introduced by WhatsApp in India, it is a compulsory consent to the netizens so that they have to share the data with the Facebook and its group. That is why Europeans and Indians are treated differently by WhatsApp. That is the allegation made by the petitioner. And as per the Europe, there is a special law that is called as the General Data Protection Regulations. Thereby, they have the opportunity to opt out for the consent whether they have to share the data. But India doesn't have any special law. And if there is a special law in India, so definitely India can also have, or else the netizens of the WhatsApp and the Facebook can also have the option for the opt-out policy. Please do understand, in Europe has a special law wherein they have the privilege to opt-out policy, that there is no compulsory consent, but India doesn't have the special law. But when we talk about if there is a special law which is been introduced in India by the parliament, then there would be a possibility that Indians or the netizens can also have the option of opt-out policy. And the new privacy policy which is now applicable to the rest of the world except Europe, and this is what the petitioner have challenged in the Supreme Court, saying that why WhatsApp group with the introduction of the new privacy policy is treating differently in comparison with the Europeans and Indians, wherein the new privacy policy is applicable to the rest of the world but except Europe. Why? Because Europe has a special law, that is General Data Protection Regulation, but wherein India doesn't. If India or India has this special law which is been introduced and passed by the Parliament of India, then Indians will also have the option of opt-out policy, and there will not be any compulsory consent. So this is the information which you need to look at from information and technology. And also polity, how the judiciary says that even though there are 2 to 3 trillion companies who are getting into large business, but when it comes to the people's privacy, judiciary has a duty to protect people's privacy. And there is another news which talks about the China pulls back, that is in regards to the disengagement. So India and China had a face off, and still it's going on since April May 2020, almost close to 10 months. And because of the standoff between India and China along the LAC in the eastern Ladakh, there was a concern, and there were repeated or rounds, various or several rounds of Corps Commander level talks, and the ninth Corps Commander level talks has given a kind of sense of hope that India and China can definitely pull their troops back. And in turn, now the Chinese troops started clearing the Finger 4 area, which is on the north bank of Pyongyang So Lake. And this is as per the disengagement which has been accepted, or coordinated disengagement between India and China. And this would be based on the disengagement process wherein from the north bank and the south bank of the Pyongyang So Lake, both Chinese troops and Indian troops should be or will be clearing the areas, and it would be completed within a week. And this is a very good news that the Chinese troops have been clearing the Finger 4 area, because it was Chinese had, prior to April 2020, they had the control in the north bank of Pyongyang So Lake, that is, they had a control in Finger 8, but they have transgressed into Indian territory 8 kilometers, and from Finger 8 to Finger 4 they have come into the Indian side. And now there is a clear, as per the disengagement, that the Chinese troops will move out or clear from the Finger 4 area. Why this is a this is a good news, that there was a concern earlier, because we have seen that there was a huge map of China which was engraved on the ground near Finger 5 of the north bank of Pyongyang So Lake by the People's Liberation Army troops. And now, because of the ongoing disengagement plan, the Chinese troops have accepted to pull out the troops from the Finger 4 area, because they have engraved a huge map of China. And this huge map of China on the ground near the Finger 5 of the Pyongyang So Lake by the PLA troops was seen by the satellite images during the standoff between India and China in the eastern Ladakh. And not only having or engraving the huge map of China, but Chinese troops have also built up heavy defenses and structures between Finger 8 and Finger 4. So I have mentioned that earlier, prior to April 2020, Chinese troops had control till Finger 8 of the north bank of Pyongyang So Lake, but they have ingressed into 4 kilometers into the Indian side, and in turn from Finger 8 to Finger 4 they have built up heavy defenses and structures, and also they have gone ahead with fortified gun positions on the ridge lines of the Finger 4, that they have stopped the Indian troops from patrolling from Finger 4 to Finger 8. So that means they have ingressed into Indian side 8 kilometers from Finger 8 to Finger 4, and in turn they have built up heavy defenses and structures and fortified gun positions on the ridge lines of the Finger 4, which has caused concern of that Indian troops could not patrol till the finger 4, and I will show it from the images or the map based, that how finger 8 till finger 4, how the Chinese troops have ingressed 8 kilometers into Indian side. And once this disengagement at the Pangong Tso Lake is completed, there would be another round of Corps Commander level talks, and then the next round, that is 10th round of Corps Commander level talks, would start up, and there the discussion would be focusing on the friction points at Gogra and Hot Spring areas. So you have the Hot Spring areas here, and now the Pangong Tso Lake, or else the north bank of Pangong Tso Lake, has been taken into consideration for the coordinated disengagement, and Chinese troops are clearing their arms and ammunition from the finger 4. And later on, once this disengagement process at the Pangong Tso Lake is completed, the next bigger issue of contention between India and China would be Depsang Plains. So this is the area which is now the really a bigger issue, that is the Depsang Plains, this area. Why? Because it is a plain, and there are developments which are being taken up by Chinese troops on the Depsang Plains from not only just from April 2020, wherein the standoff or the face-off has initiated between India and China, but rather than that, the developments have been taken up for several years in the Depsang Plains before the standoff has actually started. And this is the bigger issue of contention between India and China. And Chinese troops have been blocking Indian Army patrols from patrolling from PP10 to PP13 in the Depsang Plains. So as we had the finger 1 to finger 8 in the north bank of Pangong Tso Lake, thereby there are the bone of contention or the friction points even in the Depsang Plains, wherein the patrolling point 10 to patrolling point 13, the Chinese troops have been blocking the Indian Army to patrol from PP10 to PP13, and even that could be discussed once the disengagement at Pangong Tso Lake would be completed. So here, as I've taken that PP10 is this point, and then PP13 is this. That is, this is the area wherein the Chinese are actually blocking the Indian troops to patrol. And this is the major, because it is very close to the DSDBO, that is Darbuk Shok Daulat Beg Oldie, which is a 255 kilometers from Darbuk, that is almost close to Leh, from Leh to Daulat Beg Oldie, and you have this highway infrastructure development which is close to Karakoram Pass. So thereby it is very important that the Depsang Plains or the Chinese troops from the PP10 to PP13 has to be taken into consideration once the disengagement at Pangong Tso Lake is completed. So this is crucial information from prelims as well as mains, and also from the geography map based, so that you understand what is PP10 and where is PP10, that is patrolling point, wherein it is now the bigger issue of contention, which is the friction points at the Gogra, Hot Spring and Depsang Plains, along with the Pangong Tso Lake issue. And now, as per the map based, you have the finger 8, which was under the control of China, and India had a control from finger 1 to finger 4. But we have seen that the transgression of the Chinese troops into Indian side from the finger 8 till finger 4, 8 kilometers, and they have caused a concern for the Indian troops from patrolling from finger 4 to finger 8. In turn, they have built various constructions on the ridge lines of the finger 4, which have gone ahead with the fortified guns. So thereby now the Chinese troops are clearing from the finger 4. Thereby again Indian troops will have the control from finger 1 to finger 4, and further the discussion, as per the discussion, they can patrol till finger 8. But as of now, the Chinese troops are clearing from the finger 4, and this is the area. So this is the LAC which India says, and this line, this is the one which LAC which China is considering. That is why they have ingressed into 8 kilometers up to finger 4, and these are geographically very important. So this is the north bank of Pangong Tso Lake. So this is the Pangong Tso Lake, and the other side is the south bank of the Pangong Tso Lake. So for geography map based, you will understand very clearly how or what is the importance of Chinese troops or PLA troops clearing from the finger 4 areas. And this is, as I said earlier also, Sirijap, which is a place which has been into the Chinese side territory in the 1962 war. And there is another news which talks about the geospatial data policy. This is a keyword. And what is that news we need to focus is that geospatial data policy has been liberalized, and this is a keyword. What is been liberalized by the government of India or by the concerned department or the ministry? It is the geospatial data policy, and geospatial data policy is the country's mapping policy. It is the country's mapping policy, and the government has taken various or several or sweeping changes to the country's mapping policy, that is geospatial data policy, and it has announced a liberalization of norms. So the liberalization of norms is the keyword which is part of the geospatial data policy, which is country's mapping policy. And norms which has been liberalized is in regards to the acquisition and production of geospatial data. The importance what we need to focus is liberalization of norms in regards to the acquisition and production of geospatial data has been announced by the government, and this is the sweeping changes taken up towards the geospatial data policy. And we will look at what are the advantages by liberalization of norms which are concerned to the acquisition and the production of the geospatial data. The advantages are that it will boost innovation in the sector, and it will also create level playing field for both public and private entities. This is the first point, the advantages. And the second one, which has been mentioned by the Department of Science and Technology Secretary, that as per the new guidelines or the liberalization of the norms in regards to the acquisition and the production of the geospatial data, this will deregulate. This will deregulate, and it will also go ahead with prior approvals for surveying. It will be, or it will deregulated. It will be deregulated, and aspects such as prior approvals, that is surveying, mapping and building applications, all that will be now removed. So deregulation and then prior approvals will be moved out. And the other advantage is, the fourth one is, it will have the complete deregulation, especially onto the Indian entities. Now this is the focus. The keyword is Indian entities. There will be certainly deregulations. There will be certainly deregulation, but there would be a complete or will be a complete deregulation on the Indian entities, and there will not be any kind of prior approval, that is in regards to the security clearance or in regards to the license for the acquisition and production of geospatial data and geospatial data services, which includes even maps. So this is the major importance of the liberalization of norms, that is complete deregulation of Indian entities which are involved in the acquisition and production of geospatial data and geospatial data services. And the other advantage, which is also mentioned by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, that this is a massive step in regards to the government's vision, that is Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now you link this Atmanirbhar Bharat with the Indian entities. You will have a better understanding. Atmanirbhar Bharat with Indian entities. Now because of this new liberalized norms for the country's mapping policy, because it is a complete deregulation for Indian entities, and thereby it is a massive step in the government's vision for Atmanirbhar Bharat. So fifth one, and definitely it will also benefit for country's farmers, startups, private sectors, public sectors, and for the research institutions, so that it will benefit in regards to driving innovation, and it will also build scalable solutions. So definitely you have the advantages, and the science and technology minister has also made it very clear that the other advantage of liberalizing the norms is that there would be availability of high quality maps. That means wherein earlier several sectors were suffering from non availability of high quality maps, but wherein with the government initiative or the liberalization of norms in regards to the acquisition and production of the geospatial data or data services, now various sectors or several sectors will have the availability of high quality maps. And not only that, the other advantage is that this initiative will also generate employment and also accelerate economic growth. So we have focused, or we have analyzed, what are the 8 advantages the government which it has taken the liberalization of norms, or the advantages announced or advantages by the announcement by the government in regards to the liberalization of norms, which are in regards to the acquisition and production of geospatial data. And this is the geospatial data policy which has been liberalized, and this is very crucial information for prelims as well as mains examination in regards to the geography. So do focus from prelims as well as mains perspective, that you have an answer, that is the advantages by liberalization of norms for the acquisition and production of geospatial data, which would create a level playing field for both the private and public entities. And a new appointment has been done to the WTO head, and the Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has been appointed as the head or the director general of the World Trade Organization, and she is the first female and first African to head the World Trade Organization. And once she has been appointed as the Director General of the World Trade Organization, she has made it very clear that there has to be a stronger World Trade Organization, and this being, the World Trade Organization being stronger is necessary and the need of the hour, and it is vital for the global COVID-19 recovery. And there was a virtual Special General Council meeting which has taken place, and the member states have officially selected the former Nigerian finance minister and World Bank veteran as the Director General of World Trade Organization. So she is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is the first female and the first African, and she is a former Nigerian finance minister and a World Bank veteran who is now been appointed as a Director General of the World Trade Organization. And the earlier one is Tedros Adhanom is the Director General of World Trade Organization, and the Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala will take up her post on March 1st, 2021, and she will remain as the Director General, or it can be renewable as Director General of World Trade Organization up till August 31st, 2025. So this is as per the prelims perspective. Again, in regards to international relations, that is in regards to the World Trade Organization, that is the global organizations, in regards to the Director General who has been appointed. And exports, we will now focus at exports and imports of India, that is post COVID-19 pandemic situation. And a data has been released by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, and the data very clearly emphasizes that there is a surge in exports as per India, and it is 6.2% surge in exports in January 2021. And this is the surge in exports is the continuous second successive month, and this outbound trade has recorded, as there is a surge in the outbound trade, it has recorded a positive growth after COVID-19 pandemic and global lockdown. So these are the two conditions wherein the India's outbound trade or exports have been bleak, but it has surged after COVID-19 pandemic and global lockdowns, as it has dampened the global trade most of the 2020. But in the month of January 2021, India has recorded 6.2% surge in exports after India has experienced pandemic situation, world as also, and global lockdown has been taken up to restrict the pandemic situation, but in turn it has impacted the, or it has dampened the global trade. And along with the exports, imports also have grown or surged for the second successive month in January, and it has risen to 2%. So when we look at the exports, it has surged or increased to 6.2%, and imports have increased to 2%. And when we focus in regards to the imports, non-oil and non-gold imports have recorded a sharper import or sharper growth in the imports of 7.5%. That means the products which are non-oil and non-gold imports have been in the sharper growth of imports, that is 7.5%, and exports have been in January 2021 27.45 billions. But when we compare it with the exports of January 2020 of India, it was 25.85%. So in comparison, it is definitely an increase of from 25.85 billions to 27.45 billions, comparing it with January 2020 to January 2021, and this is exhibiting a positive growth of 6.16%, comparing the exports from January 20 till January 2021. And now when we focus at the another keyword, that is trade deficit, the trade deficit is estimated at 14.54 billions, which is almost 5% lower than the one which was recorded in the year 2020, that is the trade deficit was 15.3 billion in January 2020, but it has been lowered, trade deficit has been lowered to 14.54%, which is 5% lower than the previous year or the earlier year, that is January 20. So we are focusing on the exports and the trade deficit. And when we focus at the overall exports, in the first 10 months of 2021, it has remained 10% lower. But the imports, if you look at, it has shrunk to 22.8%. So the focus or the keywords what we have focused here is exports, imports, and the trade deficit, overall exports and overall imports, comparing it with 2021, 2022, and then 2020 and 2021. Exports have remained 10% lower and imports have shrunk to 22.8%. And this is mainly, the reason is because of the COVID-19 pandemic and global lockdown, which has dampened the global trade, that is imports and exports, and thereby India is also focusing on the exports, imports, and exports have surged or increased to 6.2 percentage, and imports have risen to 2 percentage, and trade deficit has reduced to 5 percentage, lower than comparing it with January 2020 with January 2021. And I hope this session was informative, knowledgeable, and helpful for you for the mains and prelims perspective of UPSC. So I would say a very big thank you to all, good luck to you all, and then do maintain consistency, stick to your schedule, and take care of your physical health and mental health. And do not forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe the AKS IAS Academy English Medium YouTube channel, and also have access to the website and Telegram link of AKS IAS Academy. And see you again tomorrow with the DNA, that is daily news analysis. And then till then, thank you, goodbye, and then take care.